Beginning with 16, we slashed that down to 8, as we continue to find out who is the strongest professor in the Pokemon franchise. Where in this single elimination tournament, copies of the same AI duke it out over Pokemon Showdown's Gen 9 Anything Goes rule sets to see who will come out on top. Pokemon will not be using items, and all professors will have access to terrestrialization on their final Pokemon. If you haven't seen the last episode in this series, then I would recommend doing so, as we go into more detail on how this tournament was set up. If you're curious on how these teams were made as well, then scroll down into the description for my video series on what each Pokemon professor's team would be. We have some exciting matches coming up in our quarterfinals, with Professor Oak versus Professor Kukui, Professor Laventon versus Professor Burnet, Professor Sada finally facing off against Professor Turo, and lastly, Professor Sonia versus Professor Rowan. So find a seat and get comfy as our first battle begins. And starting off our quarterfinals, we have Professor Oak versus Professor Kukui. Kukui sending out his Incineroar and Oak sending out his Sylveon. As the Incineroar immediately goes for a Toxic. It goes for a double Toxic. Maybe Kukui was hoping on the switch, but the switch comes out in turn 3. But Kukui maybe predicted that as well, as he gets the Toxic off onto Oak's Gyarados before switching into a Alolan Ninetales. Oak switching out into his Arcanine, setting up the Intimidate, but I don't think it'll really do much to Alolan Ninetales, as both sides switch back into their starting Pokemon of Sylveon and Incineroar. Sylveon goes for the Protect, which is only going to take more health off of it. Oak bringing back out his Arcanine, and taking Incineroar's Fire move like a champ, and then even throwing his own back right at the Incineroar. Incineroar leaves with a parting shot, as Lycanroc comes in and places Stealth Rocks, only to be burned. Will this be yet another rock type that succumbs to a burn tactic? Apparently not, as Oak switches into Raichu, double switches back into Arcanine to Kukui Snorlax. Those Stealth Rocks now are going to make Oak's constant switching a bit more of a threat to his own Pokemon. However, the Arcanine can seemingly take the onslaught of Earthquakes and Body Slams that Kukui Snorlax is throwing out, which is why he might have switched into his Braviary. Brave Bird doing a decent amount of damage, almost half, and then throwing out the burn though. That's only going to now get knocked down to 21%, as Arcanine can easily heal off the damage that it's taking. Braviary, almost succumbing to its burn, just like the Arcanine, will spam its heal move. Both sides seem to just be trying to stall each other out, while occasionally throwing out a move. Maybe they're trying to fish for crits, but it seems like this could last a while. Braviary brought down to 1%, but luckily heals back up to half. Again, the Arcanine can do a decent amount of damage to it, but it's just lacking the speed to fully take it out. Oak finally seeing that there might be another option, switches into his Raichu. But Braviary is switched out for Snorlax. Forward switch back into the Arcanine. Again, those Stealth Rocks are not going to be good for the Arcanine in the long run, as both are getting very close, and the first Pokemon faints on turn 34, with Professor Oak's Arcanine being taken down by Kukui Snorlax. Gyarados comes in and sets up a Dragon Dance and takes down Magnezone. It's now a 5v5. The match is staying very even. Both sides have succumbed to a lot of statuses though, with many of those teams being poisoned and many Kukuis being burned. However, both are Lycanroc and Gyarados are taken out, keeping this match even at a 4v4. Both professors just continually switching as Snorlax rests and is swapped out to Braviary. Tauros comes in and nearly knocks down Braviary, but will get it on the second attack. Incineroar coming out to intimidate Tauros and then immediately switching. The attack penalty along with Snorlax's bulky defense will keep it alive, but will it keep it alive long enough to survive until it wakes up? No, because a crit comes out, making this a 2v4. Kukui really using Incineroar's Intimidates to its advantage, however leaving it at 1% health before swapping into its Alolan Ninetales. But Moonblast is just not going to do enough damage on this occasion, as Ninetales is taken out by Tauros. And even with all the penalties, 1 HP is 1 HP, as Oak takes down Incineroar, leading him to the semi-finals. Heading into our second match, we have Professor Burnet versus Professor Laventon. Once again, an early Toxic Strat comes out, as Burnet swaps into a Gengar to nullify the Facade, setting up Poison Strikes, but being taken out by Headlong Rush. Already into turn 3 and Burnet has lost the Pokemon. However, immediately slaps back with Porygon Z, taking out Ursaluna. Choco comes in to take on Sneasler. However, it's swapped out to Naganadel, hopefully to not activate Sneasler's Poison Touch, and taking out Sneasler. Two of Laventon's greatest threats, taking out before even turn 10. However, Laventon is able to clap back, taking out Naganadel, with Metagross coming in and taking a crit really decently, and then even taking out Cleavor. The barrel comes out and uses Waterfall, flinching Metagross. Flinching it twice. Can it go for free? It cannot. Taking out the half by his Zen Headbutt before being swapped out into Bronzong. The barrel will rest and be swapped out to Lilligant, before also getting poisoned. However, Laventon could be preparing for a sweep by setting up a Victory Dance. Close Combat comes in and knocks out Bronzong in one hit. That Toxic slowly taking down Lilligant's health though, before being taken out by Metagross's Bullet Punch. Electrode will come in and use Thunderbolt, causing Metagross to faint. Porygon Z is sent out and takes on Electrode with a Tri-Blast. The barrel still sleeping. Can it wake up in time? The battle is close, but sadly he just couldn't wake to the occasion, as Burnet goes on to the next round. And now for the match that I think you've all been waiting for, as we now come to see which of the Paldean professors is the strongest, as Sada takes on Turo. Screen Tail comes out against Iron Hands, and the matchup does seem pretty even, with Iron Hands being knocked low, both at 16% before Turo switches out to Iron Bundle. Screen Tail protects, but it's taken out by Iron Bundle. Flutter Mane is sent in, as Iron Hands comes back out, fainting to a crit Shadow Ball from Flutter Mane. Iron Form takes its place and takes more than half of its health, but is able to take down Flutter Mane in one attack, before setting up with a Dragon Dance, but cannot use it to fulfill any other role, as it is taken down by Slitherwing, who is then taken out by Iron Valiant. Both sides doing impeccable amount of damage to each other. It's a constant back and forth between these two. However, Turo is in the lead by 2 Pokemon. Through Bonnet, putting Pokemon to sleep, but with a 1-turn wake up, manages to get through the confusion, but it's taken out by a second Hurricane. Roaring Moon coming in as Sada's final Pokemon. Iron Valiant coming out, but immediately fainting to an Earthquake. Iron Bundle coming out using Ice Beam. Knocks Roaring Moon down to 3%. Who sets up a Dragon Dance. He is now faster, taking out Iron Bundle. Can he go for 2? He can go for 2. It's now a 1v1. Roaring Moon versus Iron Moth. Who's faster? Roaring Moon comes in and sweeps the entirety of Turo's team, leading Sada to advance to the semi-finals. And now into our final match of the quarterfinals, we have Professor Rowan versus Professor Sonia. Laventon Vs coming out and missing 2 of its blizzards before being taken out by Runegus. A terrible start for Professor Rowan. Mantine comes out and faces off against Galarian Weezing, landing 2 Scalds but not getting the burn, as both seem to just be slowly taking down each other's health. However, both have access to a healing move. Mantine using Roost, and Galarian Weezing using Pain Split. Galarian Weezing though being burnt is swapped in for Bolt Run. Rowan, seeing the poor matchup here, swaps out Mantine for Snorlax, who takes about 4 health damage from a Thunder Fang. Sonia realizing early on this time that Adelmise has more moves than just Rapid Spin, taking Wormadam down low with 2 Shadow Claws. Wormadam retaliates so by Toxic stalling once again before being swapped out for Leafeon. And an impressive moment of actually seeing a Professor remove hazards, as Sonia takes away the Stealth Rocks using Rapid Spin. Wormadam taken down by Hydreigon. Sonia removing the Leech Seeds by switching back into Adelmise, who is taken out by Gallade. Can Gallade sweep once again? It seems to be having a rough time getting through Weezing. Despite the fact that it could try using Psycho Cutter, it seems that Rowan is instead opting for Leaf Blade, but it does seem to pay off. Both Professor switch. Mantine coming out and taking a crit from Hydreigon before being swapped back into Bolt Run. Sonia really wanting that positive matchup of Electric versus the Water and Flying, but Rowan just will not allow it. Sonia making a great prediction though, swapping Runegus into Snorlax. Once again we see another Snorlax fainting to its rest, sleeping too long. As once again we see the familiar matchup of Mantine against Voltron. As Leafeon is brought out to take the electric move. Once again Leech Seeding Hydreigon. Before Mantine comes in and takes a Draco Meteor. Once again, it's clear as day what Sonia's hoping for here, but it's just not happening. However, she does manage to KO the Leafeon. Scald comes out and hits a burn. But Rowan still does not want to risk that electric move. Bring in Gallade. A double switch into Leaf Blade. Finally taking out Sonia's electric type. This will give Mantine a lot more freedom, however it will come at the cost of Gallade, leading this to be a 1v3. Mantine terrestrializes into a pure water type and survives the Draco Meteor with 1 HP. Now using Roost to get itself back up above 50%. The special attack penalty that Hydreigon has been taken will lead to it not being able to do enough damage to break through Mantine's healing. However, it appears that Sonia's hoping for the flinch stall. She lands 2, however, Mantine can pop off another Roost before Hydreigon succumbs to its burns. Runegus sent out and is also burned by a Scald. However, Earthquake is just not going to do enough damage to break through Mantine. As another Scald comes in and takes out Runegus, making this a 1v1, can Rowan clutch up the victory at the very end? Stone Jonah coming out and terrestrializing to Ball Rock type, however cannot take out Mantine with a rock move. Mantine slapping back with one move and winning the battle for Rowan. And there we have our 4 semi-finalists. The first battle between Oak and Kukui was one of the longest, with both sides using patience to slowly make headway into the match, with the battle staying even for a long while. However, once Oak started taking space, all Kukui could do was try and slow him down. Certainly a long but well fought battle to start off our quarterfinals. Burnet's Gengar had its first appearance in the tournament and was quickly sacrificed on turn 3 to just set up some toxic spikes, which would then be absorbed once Sneasler was sent out into battle. Despite Burnet's early faux pas, she would keep the match pretty even, and with the unfortunately long rest of Barbarrel, Burnet would close out this section with a 2-1 victory. If you ever wondered who was the better battler between Professor Sada or Turo, well now you have your answer. However, Sada's victory was a narrow one, as across all 3 battles, she would only win 2 of them, with both coming down to a Roaring Moon solo sweeping Turo's team as her last remaining Pokemon each time. Still, apart from Oak, all the other professors refrained from using their weather moves. I had forgotten in the last video to mention that Professor Willow actually had a slight rain team going, but just like Sada and Turo, he also refused to use Rain Dance to help out his team. Finally, an amazing endgame sweep from Rowan and his Mantine, dominating his matches, winning all 3. I chose to show this one, not only due to his Mantine's performance, but also that even with the awful start of his Rotom missing Blizzard twice, he would still come back to clutch a victory, proving that he was definitely the most skilled trainer in this particular matchup, moving him onto the semi-finals. Speaking of which, I hope you join me next week as we continue to find which Pokemon Professor is the strongest in the franchise, as Oak takes on Burnet and Sada faces off against Rowan. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider leaving a like and subscribing for more content, and until next time, I hope you enjoyed the show.